Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down Thursday night NASCAR racing at Kansas Motor Speedway. We got not Thursday night football, not midweek basketball, not even Thursday night baseball, which also starts tomorrow. Thursday night NASCAR, Kansas Motor Speedway. It's going to be a night race. I'm looking forward to the race just because, I like midweek sports, but to be honest, I might actually watch baseball if this race gets really boring because recently the races have kind of sucked. They've not been really any exciting tracks. There've been some good finishes, but the tracks have kind of just not been great, and Kansas falls into that same category as like in Kentucky or Texas, so not really, the race may not end up being that good, but I'll definitely be watching it, just like having sports as much as I possibly can at this point. So but yeah, this is going to be hopefully a pretty decent race. It's a big weekend of racing overall. It's kind of weird, no racing on Sunday whatsoever, but we have Cup today, and then we have, Cup Thursday. I'm filming this on Wednesday. So we have Cup on Thursday. We have Xfinity and truck race on Friday, and then another truck race on Saturday, I believe. Or that might be one race on Friday and two on Saturday. Either or. I'll be having content coming out for all of those, so make sure to be on the lookout for that. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be here, making videos for NASCAR for the whole rest of the season. But also, NBA starts in like 2 weeks, a week and a half really now. And I just couldn't be more excited for that. I'll have content coming out daily for that, and then of course NFL when that starts, and we'll see if college football happens, then I'll be making content for that. But if that doesn't happen, nothing there. So yeah, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're into all those other sports, or if it's just NASCAR. Make sure to leave that thumbs up. All that stuff really helps me out. Leave a comment, tell me how I'm doing, tell me what I could do better, tell me how the videos are, and make sure to turn on the notification bell so you know when I'm releasing these videos. All those things really just help me grow the channel, help me reach more people, and that's just the goal right now. If you want to get more of my content, you should subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $10 a month for all 3 NASCAR series. You get spreadsheets, which this is my Cup Series spreadsheet, but you have a spreadsheet for all 3 top series, Cup, Xfinity, and Truck, along with my projections, which are at the end of the spreadsheets. There's projections for FanDuel and DraftKings, which I have not made yet, but they will be up, along with an article for every single race, my top tier rankings, salary rankings, all that good stuff, Cash Core 4. So yeah, all that stuff, only $10 a month. I'll put the link down below in the description. Make sure you guys check that out. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is @DFSNateLane, and my Instagram is @NateLane_. I'll make sure to put those in the description below as well. Really active on Twitter, talking about like just sports in general, DFS, all these different things. I love talking about sports. Everyone wants to talk about sports. I'm always hit me up there. Have any questions, you can always hit me up there too. I will answer them for you. So make sure to leave me a follow there on Twitter. So yeah, I think that's really all I got to say on that matter. Let's get into the salaries for the drivers. Well, actually first, what we're going to talk about is what I guess a lineup strategy would be for this week. So this race or track is very, it's not like the same as Kentucky, but it's similar to Kentucky and Texas. There are going to be tracks where if you go down here and look at my track trends, on average at Kansas, most laps led is 114, second most laps led is 69.5, and third most laps led is 44. So if you can find a way to put 3 dominators in a lineup, then yeah, that's the way to go. And I think there is some value that could make that happen, but we don't have, like, Eric Amarillo was only 8,100 last week and was like a dominator, so we don't have anybody in that area of guys who I really think could be a dominator. So was Austin Dillon last week. They both ended up being like kind of half dominators. But I don't really think there's anybody down in like 8 or below range that could be a dominator. Maybe Kurt Busch. We'll get into all that. But if you can find a way to put 3 dominators in lineups, that's going to definitely be the key to winning these things, winning a big tournament, in my opinion. But yeah, at least 2 dominators is what you're going to really be looking for. It's just a lot of laps a lot of laps to be led in a track where track position is key. So this is also going to be, especially the way the package they've been running. If you saw last week, Austin Dillon, who was not one of the fastest cars all day, or probably around a 10 to 15th place car, got to the lead at the end of the race, and nobody could pass him because it was just so hard to pass. So track position is key. And going right into it, the guy who starts on the pole this week is none other than Kevin Harvick, the best driver this year. And it's not. He's just been absolutely on fire, and he's been very good at, maybe not as much at Kansas, but at tracks very similar to Kansas. It's the 4th best average finish at Kansas, the best average finish at intermediates, and the best at large ovals, the best average position at Kansas, intermediates, and large ovals. If we go look over just real quickly at like all of his rankings for pretty much everything, let's see, there's a 4, 1, 1, 1-1-1, 1-1-1, 1-2-1. That's his team stuff, so that's not as important for him. But those, if you want to get the Patreon that stuff, you can look at day and nights, ones, 2020 races, average finish best at the intermediates, 5th average position, second that's the second driver rating. Large oval, 2nd best average finish, 7th best average position, 3rd best driver rating. I mean, the guy's just been like absolutely insane this year. So it's him starting on the pole. You know he's leading the first stage. Like, it's gonna happen. I don't really see. I'd be shocked if Logano, who starts second, takes away from him. I mean, I'm more worried about Eric Amarillo getting around Harvick than Logano, in my opinion. I don't see any way Harvick doesn't lead this first stage. And I mean, he could lead like all the laps. Like, there's literally a possibility where Harvick leads like 75% of this race, maybe even more, maybe like 90% of this race and wins. So, yeah, he's a great play. He's got that great track position. I mean, it's just there's just no better play in my opinion. He's going to be super owned. I mean, like, he's going to be so highly owned this week. Like, I'm used to Harvick being highly owned. With this, it's going to be on a whole nother level. We don't usually get him on the pole at a track he's very good at. So, yeah, Kevin Harvick, great play. I mean, if you're making cash lineups, I would start with Kevin Harvick and just move on from there. It's almost like in NFL last year, if you were playing cash for NFL, I would just play Christian McCaffrey and figure it out from there. That's what I'm like. Just play Kevin Harvick and we'll figure it out from there. Up next, we have Chase Elliott at 11,000, starting 11th. I like Chase this week. He's been so fast at the 1.5s this year, but Kansas has been like a really good track this year anyway, or in the past anyway. The best average finish at Kansas, and he has the 3rd best average position at Kansas. But let's go look at the thing for Chase Elliott this year is how he's been running at these types of tracks this year. At the intermediate tracks this year, Chase Elliott has an average finish of 7 and an average position of 7.75. And at the large ovals has an average finish of 8.3 and an average position of 8.116. We saw him win at Charlotte. He should have won at one of the other Charlotte races. He should have won at Vegas. At Atlanta, he had a fast car. I think he finished top 3. And he was fast last week before getting into some trouble. And he just... Or no, wait, that was 2 weeks ago, Kentucky, where he was fast at the beginning, led a bunch of laps, and something happened that caused him to fall back. And then last week he had to battle his way up from the back of the pack, starting in the pack, but ended up, I believe, top 5. In the last 5 races, Chase Elliott has only an average finish of 15. That's more or less because of not the 1.5s in the past 2. It's the Poconos and the Indies where he's just not as good at, and he just didn't have great finishes there. He has an average position of 11 in the last 5. So yeah, all those things are really, really important. I think he's a very good play here, and I think he's going to be low owned because everyone's just going to play Harvick. So, like, no one's playing Chase Elliott just because their prices are so similar and everyone's playing Harvick. So, if you want to get some ownership some ownership leverage here, I think Chase Elliott is just, I mean, he might be the best pivot, or I don't want to say the best pivot, but just like the best leverage option you have because, I mean, he's got so much upside. He has place differential upside. He has lap-led upside. He has very good history here and at these tracks this year. He's been very fast. And no one's going to play him because Harvick's $500 more, and, I mean, he's in the optimal spot. Everyone's going to want to play him. But what if Harvick wrecks out? Chase Elliott, I mean, Chase Elliott could just be a dominator anyway. I mean, there's nothing telling me that Chase Elliott cannot be a dominator in this race. So, yeah, I actually really do like Chase Elliott, and I'm definitely going to be having some Chase Elliott lineups. Next, we have Martin Truex Jr. starting 5th. Yeah, when you come to the 1.5s, Truex is always a factor. I mean, he has the 3rd best average finish here, 2nd best at intermediates, and 3rd best at large ovals. 7th best at Kansas, 3rd best at intermediates, and 4th best at large ovals. But the thing for me with Truex this year, I mean, just especially in the last 5 races, hasn't been running like particularly great. He does have an average finish of 6. And an average position of 7.66, but you need the laps led from Truex. And 91 laps led, I mean, yeah, it's solid, but compared to like the guys who really haven't been leading a ton of laps, like Harvick, Blaney, and Amaro have just been the classes of field leading laps the last few weeks. I'm just not particularly sure that Martin Truex Jr. is really going to get up there. I mean, he might lead a few. He probably will lead a few. But I'm just not particularly like really excited about Martin Truex Jr. here. I'd rather play Elliott. I'd rather play Harvick. I'd rather play Hamilton. I'd rather play Blaney around him. All of them I'd rather play than Martin Truex Jr. So, I mean, I think he's fine, and I don't think a lot of people are going to play him, but it's just not someone I'm really excited to go to. Denny Hamlin starts 10th at 10,200, and, I mean, Hamlin's fine. He has a lot of place differential upside. Well, not a lot, but, like, that floor like Chase Elliott does. He has the 5th best average position at Kansas, 6th best at intermediates, and 9th best at large ovals. Only the 12th best average position at Kansas, though, the 9th best at intermediates, and the 10th best at large ovals. Like, just the 1.5 mile tracks in general just are not really Denny Hamlin's, like, strength. They've just never been like tracks that he dominates at, which is weird because he's so good at like Pocono and Indy, but coming here at these type of racetracks and Hamlin's just not as good. Even this year, he hasn't been like absolutely amazing at these types of tracks. As we go look at the intermediate tracks. He has an average finish of 7.66, an average position of 10.52, and an average finish of 9 at large ovals and 11.3 at large ovals. And then we go look at the last 5 races, and Hamlin, yeah, he's been great this year, but laps led, I mean, he has 89 laps led in the last 5, which isn't great. I mean, we're falling off. Like, he hasn't looked as fast since Pocono and Indy. And I mean, maybe it is just because these are not the types of tracks he excels really well at. And I mean, that makes sense to me, but I don't know. I just don't really see Hamlin being like a dominator here. We saw him running up towards the front at, where were we last week? Texas, which is going to happen. Like, Hamlin's just one of the fastest cars this year, so he's going to be up at the front. But at that price tag, you need him to lead laps. And I just don't see Hamlin really getting up front and leading a ton of laps this week. But I do see Ryan Blaney, and I'm so happy DraftKings finally priced him up at 9,900. I mean, he's been they priced him up 1,000. Last week he was 8,900, and people were just like, oh, I'm going to play Ryan Blaney because he starts second. And yeah, of course, that was like an absolutely amazing play, and he's absolutely smashed. He finished like 9th place, and he still was like over 100 points. It was insane. Yeah, he had a great race at Texas, and now we come to a track that's very similar for him, although Kansas has not necessarily been the best track for him. Average finish of 14 at Kansas, which ranks 16th in average, but he does have the 4th best average position, so he's had some bad luck that's cost him at these races, but I just think people are going to be more scared to play Blaney because of his price tag, but I'm not. I want to go right back to him. He's been in literally every single optimal lineup at the 1.5 mile tracks this year, so and I mean, maybe people are going to want to fade him because of that. They think there's downside coming, but I'm just going to keep going after that. I mean, he's just been so good. Sorry for the little break and a phone call. I had to pick that up. But, so yeah, I was talking about Ryan Blaney. He's been so fast recently. I mean, we saw him just dominate Texas last week. In the last 5 races, Ryan Blaney has an average finish of 11.75 and an average position of 8.75. But that factors in the Pocono races and the Indy race, where are not very strong tracks for him. But if you look at Kentucky and Kentucky and Texas, he's just been lights out. I mean, I think he finished second. He finished in the top 4 or 5 at Kentucky, and he was one of the fastest cars that race. Led a bunch of laps, and then at Texas, he led a bunch of laps too, which ends up making him have 189 laps led in the last 5 races. And this is a track that's very similar to it. So I'm really hoping that people are scared of his price tag and scared of maybe his track history here, and they're not going to play him. But I just want to go to Ryan Blaney again because I just think he's got so much potential to lead laps. And if you want to make Harvick and Blaney a lineup, you can definitely do that. And I think that's a good pairing. Next, we have Kyle Busch starting 8th. And honestly, I may not play Kyle Busch again the rest of the year. Maybe when they go to Bristol, but that's about it. I'm just like, Kyle Busch, I mean, there's no practice for the rest of the year. NASCAR announced yesterday, so I just don't really see Kyle Busch having the upside to lead laps. We haven't seen him be able to do it all year, and I don't see any reason why it would continue again today, starting 8th. It's not like he's in a great spot to lead a ton of laps. And Kansas, I mean, only the 12th best average finish at Kansas over the last 2 years anyway. I mean, yeah, he's been great at all these types of tracks, but, I mean, I'm just not really so thrilled about Kyle Busch. I mean, he's going to finish well. Average finish 9 in the last 5, and average position in 9 in the last 5, but only 22 laps led, and that's just not something I'm just super excited to go to. I mean, he's going to be low owned, and I mean, it's Kyle Busch. He always has an upside, but honestly, like I say it every video, but does he really have that upside? Like, he's shown it once all year, and it was at Bristol, a track that's nothing similar like this, so he may not even really have the upside. But, I mean, it's still Kyle Busch. He's still one of the most, if not the most talented driver in NASCAR, so I don't hate it. Up next, we have Brad Keselowski, the defending champion of this race at 9,500, starting 7th. I think he's fine. It's just Keselowski, it's just, he's always a guy that doesn't lead a ton of laps. I mean, it's just, that's just not his thing. He hasn't been that way all year unless he started on the pole at Darlington. But outside of that, he hasn't been a major lap leader this year. And I mean, I'd rather play guys that are going to lead laps than someone like Keselowski, which, I mean, it could happen. It's not like, oh, Keselowski can't lead laps. Like, the upside's there. He has the 8th best average finish at Kansas. I mean, he did win this race last year. But he only has 40 laps led at Kansas over the last 2 years. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8th place out of all the drivers for laps led here. So I just don't think that, like, Keselowski's really a guy. He's not, like, in a prime starting position to lead a ton of laps. So, yeah, I mean, Keselowski, if I'm playing, MMEing, yeah, I'm going to find a way to get some Keselowski in there. But if I'm only playing a few lineups, that's not someone I'm really going to. Same thing with Logano. I mean, the only difference between Logano and Keselowski really is that he starts higher. He's in a better position to lead laps. But the 2 cars that are, like, around him, or really the 3 cars that are around him, are probably the 3 best recent as of late, especially the last 2 weeks. Harvick, Amarillo, Blaney. So I'd rather just play them. I just don't see. I think it's going to be really hard for Logano to lead all those laps, but I mean he's going to be lower owned in all three of them more than likely. So if he does lead all those laps at the beginning, and gets out front, which would shock me, he's going to be a great play. All right, here we start to get into like two of my more interested plays on the slate. Is Erik Jones at 9,000. I feel like I'm always talking about Erik Jones literally every week, and yeah, this is an interesting one for me. So he's 9,000 now, which I think is going to scare people off his salary. But Erik Jones is really good here. Second best average finish in the last 2 years, which is 5.25, and the fourth best average position. And like I say pretty much in every video, Erik Jones is either going to wreck out or he's going to finish in the top 5 to 10 at least. And if he right now I have him projected for 9th place, which I'm not 100% done with my projections, but that's where I have him finishing right now, and that's going to 5x his salary if he just does that. And like I say every race, Erik Jones is in a Gibbs car. They've been fast this year. He has potential to lead laps. He has potential to win the race. And Erik Jones is outside the playoffs right now. He needs to win a race, and if not, he just needs to really finish consistently. Those top 5 finishes are consistent for him, and to just get his way in through points. So I think Erik Jones, he's going to be hungrier than most drivers, so I think that's really going to help him out as well. And I just don't think people are going to be on him as much. Look, people, all right, so I'm in this really big group chat with just a bunch of NASCAR DFS players in the industry, and they're already talking about fading Erik Jones because he's too expensive to play. And that's fine. I understand, if you don't want to play a ton of Erik Jones, I completely get that, but there's definitely a reason to play him because he has that upside, and he literally showed it last week. He finished, I think he finished 6th, but he was running in the top 5 the whole race. So Erik Jones is an absolute great play in my opinion. Starting 21st, just because he has the upside. It wouldn't be if Erik Jones if his upside was, if his ceiling was 9th place or 8th place, I'd be okay, I can see it. But Erik Jones' ceiling is 1st, and I don't hate the play, especially when he's a driver who really needs to do well. And something I always sort of joke about, but maybe there's some truth to it, is when Erik Jones is chalk, he fails. But when Erik Jones is unpopular, he always seems to do well. My best NASCAR days, which these were last year, were when Erik Jones was not highly owned. And I don't think he's going to be that highly owned at 9,000. I think he'll get some ownership, decent ownership, but he's not going to be chalk. So yeah, I think Erik Jones is fine. I think he's a good driver to go to. In the last 5 races, an average finish at 10.33 and an average position at 12.33. Nothing special, but I love the upside here. I love that he needs to do well. He needs to either, if he wins the race, he's in, but he's not that many points out. I think he's 14 points out of the last spot, and if he could just get consistent top 10s, he'll make it in. So unless all those guys win races. So I think that's what Erik Jones is going for right now, and I don't see any reason why he can't do that. So I think he's a very, very solid play that is not going to get a ton of ownership. Jimmie Johnson at 8,900 starting 20th. I do think Jones will get more ownership than Johnson. Jimmie Johnson, I feel it's been Erik Jones a month ago was just getting hit with bad luck after bad luck, but recently he started turning around. Jimmie Johnson is the bad luck after bad luck right now. Gosh, he was running so well for us at Texas. He was my big pivot off of chalk. I don't remember who the chalk was, but he was Christopher Bell, my big pivot off the chalk Bell. And he was doing so great. He was definitely going to get a top 10. He was going to compete for a top 5. And then he hit the wall, and it ruined my day. All my other plays were fantastic that day. It sucked because I was so heavily over on Austin Dillon, so heavily over the field on Blaney, so heavily over the field on Erik Jones and Kevin Harvick. And then I was really over the field on Jimmie Johnson too. And that killed me. I had a good day and was able to have a profitable day, but if Jimmie Johnson a wreck, I probably could have had a takedown if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, so that's unfortunate, but we gotta go back to the drawing board, and I'm not gonna be scared off Jimmie Johnson here. It's the same thing with Erik Jones. People don't want to play him because he has that downside of wrecking. He's been having bad luck recently, but I'm not gonna look at that and say yeah, I don't want to play Jimmie Johnson. Look, at the intermediate tracks this year, which is really what I'm going for because he has not been great in the past few years, but recently he's been doing well. An average finish, this is without DNF, so last week doesn't even count for him, of 10th, and an average position of 12.5 at the intermediate tracks this year, and then at the large ovals, an average finish at 10.75 and an average position of 9.56. So yeah, Jimmie Johnson to me is he's got the upside again, like in Erik Jones. I don't think he has. I guess he has the upside to win, but I feel more confident in Erik Jones winning this race than I do with Jimmie Johnson. But Jimmie Johnson has the top 5 upside, and I think he's just a very, very solid play that I don't think people are going to want to go to, especially when especially for both of them when I can just play Amarillo, who's been great recently. So I think Johnson and Jones are very similar plays, and I think they're both very, very solid plays that are not going to garner a ton of ownership this week. And honestly, I think really something that I think this is really going to be a line construction that not a lot of people are going to do is play them together. I can see people going to just playing one of them, but if you put them together in a lineup, I don't think that's going to be like a very duplicated lineup by a lot of people. So, yeah, I do like Jimmy Johnson and Jones this week as pivots off of, I mean, they're really not as much pivots, they're just lower owned guys, because I think more than likely you're going to have Harvick and Blaney, and it's going to be Harvick, Blaney, Amarillo. Those are going to like those paired in two, maybe even putting all three of them in there. But if you want to like just be a little different, just play like Harvick and Eric Jones, or Harvick and Jimmy Johnson, or even just going Harvick, Blaney, and Jimmy Johnson, or Amarillo, Harvick, and Johnson. Like just something like that. It's going to be different in what people do, and I think it could end up paying off very big for you. Up next we have Eric Amarillo starting third, and I just expect people to go back to him. 8,700. I mean, that's expensive for Amarillo if you can play, if you haven't played NASCAR DFS in a while and you came back and saw Eric Amarillo at 8,700, you'd be like, what in the world? No way I'm going to play him. Well, Eric Amarillo has been great as of late. I don't really like to look at his past as much because he's just been so much better recently. But Eric Amarillo has an average finish of 5.8 in the last 5 races. It's insane how good he's been. And an average position of 9.6 and the most laps led in the field. Eric Amarillo, if you told me at the beginning of the year that when we got to Kansas that Eric Amarillo in the previous 5 races had the most laps led, I would say you're crazy. It's insane how great he's been. And the second highest driver rating as well. So, yeah, Eric Amarillo has been great. I expect him to, there's going to be 3 main lap leaders, and I think Amarillo could be one of them. I'm not saying he's definitely going to, but Amarillo was faster than Harvick last week at Texas too. So it wouldn't even really surprise me that much if Harvick got out to the early lead, but a few laps in, Amarillo passed him. So I don't hate it. I don't hate that take. I think Amarillo's a very good play. I think it's going to be popular. Now, this is someone who's not going to be popular at all. Alex Bowman. He has just been terrible recently. He's at 8,500 starting 6th, and he has the upside. 8th best average finish at Kansas and the 13th average position at Kansas. But Alex Bowman's been bad recently. I mean, he's just been so bad. Last 5 races, average finish of 18.33. It's not good. 0 laps led. He just has not been performing well. I mean, really, Hendrick as a whole, maybe outside Chase Elliott, but really even him have just not been performing well. But, I mean, he's got the upside. This is the type of track he excels at. Very good at Chicago, very good at Auto Club, that's where his 2 wins are, but also very good at intermediate tracks as a whole and the large ovals as a whole. So, yeah, I think Bowman, this is a track where he excels at, and he's going to be low-owned. But, man, I mean, just the way he's been racing just scares me, man. Just has not been doing well. I mean, even last week, I played Alex Bowman last week, and he was doing pretty decently for a little bit, and then he just fell off. I just don't know what's going on with, I think, just Hendrick as a whole. I mean, they started the year off so fast and recently haven't been running well. So I think that'll be an interesting play. Up next, another one of my favorite plays is Tyler Reddick, starting 23rd at 8,300. Reddick's great, man. He finished second last week, and he's just been running well like all year. He did race this, and I believe he raced at Kansas last year. So I don't remember if it was this race or the race later in the year, but he did race at Kansas, and he finished 9th place. That wasn't even when he was rookie. That was I think his first Cup start, honestly. Finished 9th. So, and RCR last year was bad. This year they're running well. So I expect Tyler Reddick to do very well. I expect him to be chalky starting 23rd because, I mean, you have the guys starting in the 20s. You can play Jones and Johnson for 9,000, or you can play Reddick and Bell for 8,000. And I think people would just rather play that, which makes sense to me. I will be wanting to play Tyler Reddick as well. He does have the 11th best average finish at intermediates and the 10th best at large ovals. So, yeah, Reddick's pretty good at these tracks. And in the last 5 races, Tyler Reddick's been running very well. Average finish is 6.6. Average position of only 16.33, though. But he's been found a way to finish well. He has top 10 upside. He has top 5 upside, but more than likely a top 10 is what we're looking for from Tyler Reddick. And I think he totally could get that. I mean, it's totally going to pay off that salary by a lot. Same thing with Christopher Bell, but I think Reddick's more likely to get it. I'm interested to see if Bell is chalky this week, because we've had, chalk Bell? Well, last week, Christopher Bell was super chalky, and I just opted to fade him, and that paid off huge for me. So, but Christopher Bell at 8,100 starting 22nd, I don't think people are going to be as willing to play him, but he has the upside of a top 10 or top 5. I mean, if you look in the last 5 races, just without DNF and anything, he has an average finish of 11 and an average position of 17.5. So if Christopher Bell finishes 11th place, he's going to be a great value again. And I don't hate playing Reddick and Bell in a lineup together. I don't know how many people are going to do that, but I would expect Reddick and Bell together would be very much more popular than Jones and Johnson. Next, we have Kurt Busch starting 9th at 8,000. Kurt's fine. I mean, he's good here. He has the 7th best average finish here, 7th best at intermediates, and 5th best at large ovals, 10th best average position at Kansas, 6th best at intermediates, 5th at large ovals. So yeah, Kurt Busch is solid here. Last 5 races, only an average finish of 11.4, an average position of 12.2, 35 laps led. The thing for me with Kurt Busch is he just doesn't have a ton of upside for me. That's just really all there is to it. I just don't think that Kurt Busch is going to lead a bunch of laps. I think he just hangs around where he starts, and that's really just about it. I'd rather just play for 100 more Christopher Bell or 300 more Tyler Reddick, or even 200 less for Byron or 300 less for DiBenedetto. So it's like my least favorite player in that range. I just not really excited to play him. Next we have William Byron at 7,800 starting 15th. I do like Byron though. Byron's been a hard one. Byron also has been getting a lot of bad luck, but he's in a similar position as Eric Jones where he needs to just finish well, and I think he'll get in the playoffs. I think he's the first guy out right now. I think Johnson's the last one in and Byron's first one out. So if he just can finish consistently, he'll probably find his way into the playoffs. And he's had the speed this year, but average finish of 12.5 at Kentucky or at Kansas. God, I get those tracks mixed up too much. And the 14th best average finish. The last 5 races haven't been too kind for him, but when he doesn't DNF, it's an average finish of 10.66 and an average position of 15.75. So if he can get up inside that top 10, he's going to be a good play. And I don't expect a lot of people to be on him. And it's honestly the same thing for me with Matt DiBenedetto. Both of them have been running very well. Byron hasn't been running very well this year. Matt DiBenedetto has, though. And every week he's like, that he starts higher and higher. People are like not playing him as much. And I was kicking myself all race that I didn't play him. And we got really lucky that he got taken out at the end of the race. But let's see. That's not the right one. This is the right one. Intermediates this year, average finish of 12.9 and average position of 13.4. And at the large ovals, an average finish of 15 and an average position of 11.983. But we've seen where DiBenedetto can hit that upside. He's got top 5 upside, and if he hits that, he's going to be very, very valuable at only 7,700. So I do like Matt DiBenedetto. Clint Bowyer, though, I'm not really too excited to play him. Yeah, he starts 19th. He's got good place differential upside, but Clint Bowyer just, as of late, it's just really not been running well. But if you do like the narrative thing, go by the narrative. This is Clint Bowyer's home track. He's from Kansas. And, he's run pretty well here in the past. But this year, average finish of 11.2 and average position of 13.8. But, yeah, Clint Bowyer, we're expecting either this or next year to be his last season. And, he probably wants to get a win before it's all over. So, if there's any place for him to get a win, it's his home track. So, I think that's... If you like to play the narrative game, then go for it. I don't personally ever play it. I try to stay as far away from that as possible in DraftKings, unless there's certain circumstances like Russell Westbrook returning to OKC. That's different. He went off that game. There's certain things that I do play as a narrative when it feels like it's super, super emotional. But for the most part, I try to stay away from that as much as possible with DFS. So yeah, Clint Bowyer, 7,500, starting 19th home track. Probably not really going to be too interested in him. Cole Custer. All right, see, I think I'm done playing Cole Custer because Cole Custer's locked into the playoffs now, and I just don't see in my opinion, I don't think he's going to be hustling as much to just finish as well. He's locked in. They're going to be trying new things. He's just going to be hovering around where he is. It's not like he's been great at these tracks outside of that one at Kentucky. 24th best average finish at intermediates, 15th at large ovals, 23rd best average position at intermediates, 23rd best at large ovals. Last 5 races, he does have an average finish of 9.75 though. He is very, very good at those at Pocono and Indy, which is a tracks he finished very well at, and then of course he won at Kentucky. Average position of 15.25. But this year at the intermediates, he only has an average finish of 18, an average position of 21.28. At the large ovals though, an average finish of 13.6, and an average position of 19.7. I think he's okay. It's just not someone I'm super excited to go to. I think he's a fine play. I don't think he has a ton of upside anymore. I think at Pocono he did. At Indy he did just because of those type of tracks he excels at. At Kentucky he did because he started 34th. And he freaking ended up winning that race. So that was insane. And then last week Austin Dillon won. Which Austin Dillon made me look like a genius last week on this video. If you watch this video, because I say he was going to be my highest owned player, but I didn't expect him to win. I expected him to give me a top 10, maybe top 8, top 7. That's what he was doing all day. He was doing great, and I was really happy. And ended up winning the race, which was absolutely insane. But I think I think Austin Dillon's probably going to be popular now, which sucks. That's what I loved about Austin Dillon. We've been getting him at decently low ownership all year, and now he got a win at a track that's really similar to this. and it'll probably be popular. So 7,200 starting 16th. Again, this is another driver which we went over last week. I like to look at stats from this year only for him. In the last 5 races, he only has an average finish of 13, though, an average position of 13.8. But let's go look at his, oh my God, the intermediate tracks this year, an average finish of 11.13, an average position of 14.4, and at the large ovals, an average finish of 11.83, an average position of 13.083. So yeah, Austin Dillon been very, very good at these types of tracks. And again, I'm going to say the same thing I said last week about Austin Dillon. If he sneaks up into that 8 to 10 range, he's going to be a very good value. I don't know about low ownership. That was the thing last week. I was like, he's going to be lower owned. And I mean, now he's not. So, but we'll see. But I think he's an okay play again. I don't think he's as good as last week because he started 21st last week and he was 300 cheaper. But I do think he's still a fine play. Now we got Ricky Stenhouse starting 25th at 7,000. I mean, it's a driver who starts 25th, starting at only 7,000. That's hard not to want to play, but man, Stenhouse has been trash recently. He just has not been good. Last 5 races, an average finish of 20.33 and an average position of 18.33. I just don't like that. I would rather, we're going to talk about in a minute, 200 less, Johanna Nemechek. I just don't want to play Ricky Stenhouse here. It's just not intriguing to me. I mean, yeah, he has potential to get a top 10, but realistically, I don't see him hitting that. It's just, if he was like a little bit cheaper, then yeah, or if he started like 30th, then yeah, maybe. But starting 20th, when I think his probably highest he's going to finish is like 15th. I don't know. I'm not excited about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. here. Next we have Johanna Nemechek though. I'm skipping Matt Kens if he starts way too high. I don't expect him to really hit that upside at all. But anyway, Johanna Nemechek, 6,800, starting 30th. Okay, this might be my favorite play in the slate. Man, maybe him or Ty Dillon. Well, everyone's going to play Ty Dillon this week, starting 36. And everyone's going to play Priest and LaJoy. No, I don't know how much people are going to play Johanna Nemechek, though. And Johanna Nemechek, out of all those guys that just listed, has been the best one and is the best one. So, I think he might be an interesting play here. Let's go look at Johanna Nemechek this year. I mean, he was a guy I talked about a lot in my video last week, and he didn't really hit his ceiling, but he still was a positive play. Like if you played him, you played other right guys around him, you were gonna make money with him. He was fine. Average finish of 20th in the last 5, and average position of 21.25. If we go look at this year's races, you have the intermediate tracks. He has an average finish of 18.875 and an average position of 21.1. Large oval, average finish of 19.8, average position of 22.18. So yeah, if he gets that top 20 like he's been running all year, then he's going to be a great play. But that's the thing about Johanna Nemechek. He also has upside to finish top 15. Now, he doesn't hit it that often. He hasn't really hit it recently as much, but it's there. And I think that Johanna Nemechek is pretty much like, as long as he doesn't wreck or anything, pretty good shot at he's going to finish 21st or higher. And that's going to pay off that salary pretty nicely. And with more upside than I think someone like Ty Dillon has, that's going to be great. Now, Ty Dillon on FanDuel at 5K is great. Ryan Newman starts 18th at 6,600. I mean, he's okay. He's someone like I always say about Austin Dillon. If he finds a way to sneak up in that top 10 or higher, then he's a very, very good play. But I don't think it's likely he does that, especially in the last 5 races with an average finish of 15.75 and an average position of 17.25. I don't think it's likely. Ty Dillon starting 36 is going to be chalk. Starting 36, I think he's fine. I'm not going to tell you not to play him. 6,500. I mean, he'll probably finish 25th, honestly, maybe a little higher. But I mean, I think he's okay. Let me go look at the last 5 races for Ty Dillon real quick. He has an average finish of 19.75 and an average position of 20.75. So if he gets that top 20, he's great. I mean, he's just going to be chalk. Everyone's going to play him starting 36th position. I don't hate it. I think he's a fine play. I may avoid it just because I'm going to need to find a way to pivot off some chalk somewhere, and that might be the chalk I fade this week. But I think he's fine. I mean, I do think there are reasons to fade because I think there are good plays around him. Like I just said, Johanna Nemechek for only 300 more, or Michael Mcdowell for 300 less. Bubba Wallace starts too high for me. I'm really not excited to play him. But Michael Mcdowell has had, again, I said this in last week's video, he's having the best year of his career. I mean, like, just look at this. But Michael Mcdowell in the last 5 races, and it's really more like last 8, has like an average finish of 13.5. It's insane how good he's been running. And that's the upside that I'm talking about. Like, Ty Dillon can't do that. Ty Dillon isn't getting you a top 15 this week unless it's just a wreck fest. Michael McDowell can do that for you. I mean, he can get you a top 15. More than likely, it's going to be just a top 20, but a top 15 could be huge. And if he gets a top 20, he's going to pay off that salary too. But if he gets a top 15 again, he's going to be like the guy you need to have. And that's why I'm saying there's like reason. I think that Johanna Nemechek and Michael McDowell have more upside. I think they can both get you top 15s, where Ty Dillon really realistically at his ceiling is going to be like 20th spot, but more likely like 20 to 25th. So I like those guys more, especially when you have McDowell coming in cheaper. So yeah, I think those are good pivots off of someone like Ty Dillon this week. Suarez, how many times do I got to tell you, just don't play Daniel Suarez? I mean, just don't do it. He's not good. Chris Buescher, I mean, okay, if Suarez was like the only guy down here, like if Suarez was like these guys, then maybe, but he's not. So don't play Suarez. Chris Buescher, 5,900, starts 13th. He's okay. Not someone I'm really going to go to this week in all honesty, but he does have, if he just hangs around 13th, he's going to be a good play. Average finish is 16.33 in the last 5, and average position of 15.66 in the last 5. He just really hasn't been like great this year. He hasn't had the year he was supposed to have. So he's an interesting play. If he hangs around there, that's fine, but I just don't like, it's still, even if he hangs around there, if Michael McDowell finishes 14th, he's going to outscore him. So, Ryan Preece, though, if Ryan Preece has finished dead last in the last 3 races, that is so bad. My man's been having a rough year. This is a track that has been good for him, though. But I will say this. This is the only 1.5 mile track that Ryan Preece has an average finish below 20. So is it a fluke? Is he actually just good here, or has it just been a fluke? I'm leaning more towards the side that it's just been a fluke, because there's no way he sucks at all the other tracks that are so similar to this, and he's good here. It just makes no sense. So Ryan Preece, he's going to be popular. I don't know if he's going to be popular. He's been so bad recently. He's an okay play, starting 35th. I think he's fine. I'd rather play with Joy, honestly. It's 31st, 5,700. Corey LaJoy's last, that was a guy I said not to play last week and ended up finishing 16th. That was like the one miss I had. Anyway, the one major miss I had last week was Corey LaJoy. I was disappointed in myself. If I'd played him instead of Johanna Nemechek last week, I would have had a takedown. Jimmy Johnson killed me in one way, but not having Corey LaJoy also did. But anyway, started 22nd, or he has an average finish of 22nd in the last 5, and an average position of 23.5. If he gets that, he pays off that salary starting 31st. He's a good play, especially in cash. So yeah, those are the drivers to go through. Don't play Sorensen, Yaley, Poole, McLeod, Hill, Gase, Bilicki, Smithley, or Half, especially Half. Don't play any of those guys. They're not good. They're not going to get you any sort of upside here. That's really all I got to say on this slate. If you have any more questions for me, make sure to hit me up on Twitter or on Instagram. I'll answer it for you. Better to come on Twitter, in all honesty, though. If you want more of my content, you want the spreadsheet, make sure to subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put that in the link below. I think that's really all I got to say on this. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to leave a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe if you're new here. Leave a comment. And hope you guys have a great weekend. And I hope you guys, I hope you guys have a great race tomorrow night or tonight if you're watching it on Thursday. Good luck to all of you. Hope we win some money this week.